Oh man, they're really hating Marvel Rivals' success right now because it shows the complete failure of other titles in the video gaming industry that are doing the opposite of what we're seeing in Marvel Rivals, which is actual acquiescence to what the game players want from a gaming title, especially if you're representing a global iconic brand like Marvel. People want something similar to what they see from the comic books and movies, and that's exactly what we're getting here. Comic accurate versions of the Marvel superheroes that we all grew up with and love. And I think that is the thing that's the biggest selling point for Marvel Rivals as it becomes a global sensation upon its release, because it's doing the things that we actually want to see in a Marvel title. And not just a Marvel title, it's doing something even the movies are neglecting. It's bringing the comic accurateness back to the comic book industry, because you're not going to find that in the comic books anymore, because the comic book industry is more of a signaling of progressive values, where it's trying to do the politically correct thing, where it's taking away the original characters and replacing them with characters that we just don't want to see. And I think what we're seeing with Marvel Rivals now is a return to form, and that is getting people excited regardless of what they think about the gameplay, regardless of what they think of what's happening with the characters in the movies or anything like that. They see the original characters that they grew up with. We see the versions of Squirrel Girl that we grew up with, the thick version that a lot of people like. We see the version of Spider-Man that we grew up with in this, and I think that's the thing people are loving about Marvel Rivals. But I think the biggest thing that we're seeing right now is a lot of the activists that are involved in the gaming industry are fuming at this game. They're mad at this game, and you can see how mad they are when they make these baseless claims on the game, saying that they stole the character Black Widow from Overwatch, when that is just a gross oversight. When you know Marvel made this character in 1964, you should know this when you see the TV shows and movies are surrounding around the character for the past 10 years. So that is kind of a terrible statement from a former Blizzard dev nonetheless. And I think this is just showing the unease that's developing in the gaming industry as they see trying to take all these games and clone them and make better versions of these games that are superior to the Western games. And that's what we're seeing here with Marvel Rivals. They see that this game is showing that their way of doing things is completely the wrong way, because when we see a version of Storm that we actually see from the comic book in this game, we get excited, but that's not the thing that we see from other properties that are recreating some classic characters. We see kind of a destruction of that character. You can just look at some of the new versions of Tomb Raider, where we have this manly version of Lara Croft that's just not the character that we remember. You see it in the Netflix adaptations. You see in many adaptations of new video game franchises where they just try to remove the essence of the character and make it into something that we just don't have any connection to. And I think that's the opposite of what we're seeing with Marvel Rivals right now, where we're getting something that's deeply tied to the roots of comic books. And I think that's what people love the most about this game. Even though it may feel like a Fortnite shooter, at least from the videos I've seen, it still has that comic accurate look that is selling people on playing the game. And it has me wanting to play this game when I was even thinking about this game. I was like, I don't know if I want to play this. It looks like a Fortnite shooter. But now that I see the comic accuracy, I'm thinking, wow, I gotta try it out. Even if I might not like the game, I might have to force myself to just play and like this game, because it just looks like the Marvel superheroes that we saw in the past. And I think this is exposing people of what is the biggest flaw in the current video gaming industry, where people are not creating characters that are just ultimately pleasing to the eye and just kind of fantastical in their elements. And I think that's what we see with these Marvel superheroes. They go back to the roots of these fantastical elements of these characters that we all aspire to. It's not based on making some gender, racial, political issue pronounced through your gaming experience. It's not about that. And I think that's what we see with the contrast of Marvel Rivals' success. Marvel Rivals opened up with a peak of 439,000 people playing, and this just is the first day. This is not even the weekend. It might even go higher to 600,000 people playing at this peak. This is a massively successful game, and it kind of contrasts with what we're seeing with games that are doing the opposite, that are following the trend of being something heavily focused on racial, gender, politics, progressive activism, rather than making content that is identifiable to the game player and attractive and appealing to the perspective of the game player. And that's not what we're seeing with games like Concord, where people are making the comparisons. They're looking at the Marvel rival characters and looking at the Concord characters, and you see the big discrepancy with the design of these characters, where you see attention to detail with some of the costuming and outfits of these characters with Marvel rivals. You see attractive curves being placed on whether it's male or female characters, where they look decidedly their gender and decidedly strong in that gender as they could be. They look attractive and appealing as a female character. They look strong and domineering as a male character. And I think those are the traits that we see in gaming that attract the mass audience. Whether you're male or female, you want to see someone strong in their specific gender profile, and you don't see that with Concord. You see something that is ambiguous, androgynous, that is disdainful to anything overly masculine and disdainful to anything that's overly feminine. And I think that is the thing that is pushing away a massive amount of fan bases for a lot of these current games that are coming out right now, where they're just trying to balance this non-masculine, non-feminine area of character design that is just simply pushing away the player base. And I think you see that with the massive contrast in actual players engaging with this game. You see Concord peaked at 697 people playing that game. No one wanted to play that game because it was a game that was just lost in its own political biases. And I think this is what we see the opposite way with Marvels. We see a game that is trying to make a game for the game player base, and of course is trying to make money as well, but even its monetization method is being heralded as something as simple, clear, non-expensive, and affordable for the everyday player, where people are saying, oh, the monetization is basically focused on cosmetic stuff. It's not trying to make it a play to win game. And I think even that is winning over the player base. And this is just a game that is succeeding on all cylinders, and I think it's gonna be an established franchise because it's doing the things that gamers want. It's making attractive, appealing characters, it's sticking to the lore and comic accurate look of these characters, and it's making things fun and engaging for the player base, and it's not lecturing them. And you see the antithesis with that with Concord, and that's why Concord is deemed as one of the biggest failures of this generation. It was something that was a propaganda piece, where it was trying to establish its vision of the future and what you should perceive as a feminine and masculine ideal. Mostly all the game players that have seen this game rejected it for that cause. They don't want to be lectured to, and plus overall they just didn't like the look of your game. Your game didn't have the look of someone that was actually loving what they were creating. This was a game that was made by some sort of a political committee and tried to establish what people should like, rather than making something that is already likable to the mass audience. And I think that is the failure of Concord, and this is what is being exposed with Marvel Rivals, where you just simply make what the game players want. You understand what genders see as attractive and appealing, whether it's male or masculine. You don't try to obfuscate and obscure that with your own political ideology. No, it's just like, oh, you just simply know that men like attractive, appealing female characters, and so do women as well, and they like attractive, masculine, dominant characters, and you understand that men like this as well. They want to be those characters. And I think this is the delusion that we see in the video game industry, where it's just we have political activists trying to oppose their ideology, and we're seeing the opposite happening with NetEase Games, which is the Chinese company that is understanding the market that they're building for right now. They're making games to actually make money, and that is probably going to be an achievable goal with the content that they're creating and how they're creating it. And I think that is the exciting thing for people with this Marvel rival success right now. It's just looking like an amazing game. It's dominating the market, and I look forward to see what they do with this game in the future, because it feels like they're hitting all the right notes. It has good monetization methods and pathways. It has good character designs. I don't see how they can mess this up, but of course this is gaming. Everyone messes up something eventually, and I think this is probably going to be one of them. It's probably going to be through the monetization path, but because this is China. But China has been doing good with this game, so I expect the best so far, because everything I hear about it is positive. I'm still a little bit shaky about the gameplay. It still looks like an interesting and fun shooter, so I'm looking forward to it. Maybe the powers will be engaging. I like what I'm seeing so far with some of the trailers and some of the characters. They do have all their moves and attacks, so I'm excited about it. You should be be excited about it too. You leave your comments. Tell me what you think about Marvel Rivals exposing the failure of Concord. I think it's so obvious when you see this game, the differences, the character designs, and just the dedication of making something fun looking and appealing. And I think that's what we see here with this game. But maybe you disagree with me. Maybe you think this game is absolutely garbage. It should fail, but I highly doubt it. Maybe you leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Like, comment, share, subscribe. This is Wagner Knows Why. Catch you next time.